the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And as usual, I forgot to turn on my mic. So, this is the time when we have any adjustments, additions, deletions on the agenda. And we have 2 deletions today. After considerable conversation on the board and deliberation and meetings and field trips, the 2 trail proposals that are adjacent to the Kingswood Golf Course have been stricken from the agenda for tonight. We will consider the other 2. So with that in mind, next up is the approval of minutes. And I should mention that if you intend to address the board this evening, please sign in by the front door so we have a proper name and the street that you live on. We'll get to that a little bit later. First up, the approval of the minutes for the Board of Directors regular meeting for last month. Do I have a motion?
You have a motion, so moved.
Jerry? Second by Jan. Did anybody find anything wrong with the minutes that needed to be corrected? In that case, we'll vote to approve the minutes. All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Aye.
Next up, the December 8th work session minutes. Was there anything there? This was just a week ago. Nothing, okay. Motion?
So moved.
Sandy? Jackie be second. Okay, we'll vote on those. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I should mention that Mike Abb, Jan Sims, and Jason Lloyd, and J.B. Portillo are unable to be with us today. We do have 9 members attending, 4 by Zoom. So we have a full board. Next up, we have the Joint Advisory Committee reports. Tom?
We only have one report for this month. The Lakes Committee is the only one that met. Here are the highlights from the November/December meeting. The committee held a detailed discussion on the necessity of buoys on no-wake lakes. A motion was made to remove all buoys from the 4 no-wake lakes and ensure that proper signage was placed at the boat ramps, clearly indicating the lake was no-wake. The motion was passed. The committee felt that the buoys created more confusion than clarity, particularly on no-wake lakes. Chris Fuller gave a detailed presentation on largemouth bass electrofishing results for all lakes. While our lakes are in excellent shape, we do have an overabundance of smallmouth bass, Lake Brittany in particular, which compete for available food sources. Ideas were discussed to rectify the problem, including encouraging of keeping more smaller bass in the 10 to 12 inch range. Panfish are also in short supply, which is a food source for bass. Lake Avalon drawdown has begun with anticipated refilling on March 6, 2023. And that was the extent of the report provided by the chair, Matt.
Okay, thank you. Next up, the financial reports.
So the financial reports just remind you for the months of November and December, since the meetings take place one week earlier than normal, we do not present the financials in those 2 months. Once they are available, they will be placed on the website,
Where we have years and years of results.
where we have many, many years of information.
Okay. That brings us then to the open forum. People who would like to address the board. We have 4 signed in here. The first is Diane Valentine. You care to address the board? Come up to the microphone, please. You just about have to swallow the thing.
the liability of who pays for accidents once the trails go in. How do we keep the bikers out of our backyards? And the golfers have already made it very clear they don't want anybody walking on their turf, and they put up signs. So now you're thinking maybe you want a trail, a bike trail, right almost on top of the golf course, right on all of our backyards. There's only like 8 houses there. And the other thing that we had was we had to hear this from somebody else. We were not even notified that you guys were thinking about this. And we're the ones that live there. At least we should have had something in the mail, an email, a text, put it in the neighborhood lettering saying, you know, we're going to think about putting a trail right in the back of your yard. I think we should have had more consideration.
Okay.
The other thing is when golfers come through, I've been there for 5 years, and this last year they've been the most they are just horrendous. They've went into our backyards and created ruts when we weren't there, and going through the whole backyards, circling decks, taking, you know, just destroying property. And they don't care. And when you stop somebody and say, hey, you know, like, I think you were in my yard, and they'll go, I wasn't. And they don't care. And there's no way that we can stop that because we're not allowed to have fences. If you put in a trail behind our homes, you have to figure out a way to keep them off of our yards. We have kids in our neighborhood, 2 or 3 years old. They're going to be out there playing. They're not going to pay attention to a rider. If he falls or he goes back into the yard and hits them, whose fault is that? Is the POA going to pay for that? Do we have to have special insurance because of that? There's, you know, and the upkeep. Are you guys going to be capable of upkeeping that because it's detailed and where there's homes there? So those were some of the things. Let's see. Who would maintain it? And where will the cars all park? Where are all those bikers going to park? Because there's we're pretty close houses right along that whole area there. And if you park on one side of the road, you're going to be cutting off driveways. So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to us. When the golfers are on the course, how are they supposed to maintain those bikers coming around the corner at 90 miles an hour?
Thank you, Diane. That's 3 minutes.
All righty.
Okay.
I had one question. I didn't catch your address. Did she say your address?
Yeah, I've got it.
Okay, thank you.
We'll answer after everybody's had a chance to speak because we might have the same questions
All
again and
righty.
again.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Next up is Don Lang.
Thank you. I don't think you'll have trouble hearing me. Anyway, I'm Don Lang. I live on, okay.
For those at home,
For those at home, I'm Don Lang. I live on 40 Elizabeth Drive on Kingswood number 11. And they're neighbors of mine, the lady in front of me. Anyway, when I found out about this proposed Kingswood Trail this morning, I contacted all of my neighbors up and down that fairway. And to every one of them, they're opposed to having it in back of their house. They bought lots on the golf course, not on a bike trail. And she already discussed some of the problems with having additional people back there. I'd like to mention a couple others. First of all, I mentioned I contacted all of them. They're all opposed. And the bike trail is right in the back yards of some of the people, as close as 50 to 75 feet from their back windows that overlook the golf course. So people can look right in if they're out there biking, stopping. It's dangerous to have it there because as they're driving down that bike trail, the golfers are teeing off on number 11, right into them. And we often find golf balls in our yards. Not only the golfers are back there looking, but I'm afraid some of those bikers might get hit. Or you'll have some unhappy golfers having to wait for those bikers to clear away. Okay? And that'll result in some slow play, I'm sure, which the golf people aren't happy about. You already have signs up there saying no biking, no walking or anything else. Only a couple more things. I have a suggestion. There's some clarification needed first. The video that's online shows the trail going right behind our houses. In this handout that you have, it shows it going in front of our houses on the street. So I'm not sure where you plan to have it go now. Okay. Suggestion. Where it comes up out of the ravine at Fenchurch and then either goes behind the houses or in front of our houses, instead of doing that, keep it down in the ravine where it goes down and right along the creek. Would be more scenic, would be safer. Probably solve all the concerns about safety and people in people's yards or looking in the windows, things like that. And if you look at the map, you'll see what I'm talking about, where it's proposed. Do you know which one is the actual proposal? Along the back of along the golf course or along the street? Because these two are conflicting.
We'll cover that after everybody asks questions. I'll address that.
Okay. And she already mentioned that no one really was aware of any of this until today. At least none of these property owners were.
Good.
Any questions?
Thank you, Don.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next is Kelly Hutchins from Levenden Circle Drive.
Hi, I'm Kelly Hutchins from 2111 Circle Drive. I just got a couple concerns for the POA.
Talk more into the microphone so
I'm
they
sorry.
can hear you at home.
Regarding, a month ago, I sent a message to the POA wanting to know what my $40 a month paid for. And all the amenities look good, everything, except when it came to restaurants. In my opinion, restaurants should be, the space should be leased out to people that know how to run a restaurant and can make a profit. I don't think a restaurant is an amenity, in my opinion. The second issue I want to talk about is the activity cards. So we're paying $40 a month for the amenities. Then we have to pay on top of that an activity card to use the amenities. I'm just wondering if we could just pay the $40 and have use to the amenities that we paid for already. Why do we need activity cards? That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. The next one up, I apologize. I can't read the name. It's 19 is the address.
I'm sorry, we just thought it was a sign-in sheet, we're good.
Okay, so that's the end of the speaking. Tom, do you want to? Well, I don't see anybody else standing up, but nobody else signed in, so thank you.
Well, first of all, we'd like to thank so many people for showing up. All too often at these board meetings, we get no guests at all, so it's really encouraging when people do show up, and we really appreciate it. Once the comment section is closed out, then we address them, and then we move into our meeting. So a couple things, and I'm just try and hit as many of the high points as possible, and if I miss something, feel free to corner me after the meeting, and I can go into much more detail. All right, a couple things. With regards to accidents on trails, that is covered by the Arkansas Recreational Use Statute. So if someone were to get injured on a trail, the POA is covered. It's from a financial risk. Next item is the combining of golfers and bikers, hikers, and so forth. That's always a challenging issue. We have a couple areas already on our golf courses, on our trails, where we have combined, and by and large they work well together, but not always. Notification, we always encourage our membership to look at the agendas. They are posted as far out in advance as possible. So For the work session, that agenda was posted 2 weeks ago, or almost 2 weeks ago, and so we just make sure that you stay in touch with what's going on in our community. Next one, if you do have, there was comments about golfers that are not polite, please feel free to call the pro shop. They can, if they have the time, they will send someone out to address the individuals that are not being respectful of your area. Upkeep of the trails, that is a combined effort between the city and the POA. And we have funds that are set aside each year for the maintenance of the trails, and they do a pretty good job. There are no planned trailheads in this section, meaning no parking. This would be a throughfare, but as David, our chair, indicated earlier, this trail in particular is been stricken from the agenda and will not be voted upon at this meeting. The board toured the site earlier this week, and there was an overall agreement that this is a tight area, a hazardous area, and what they're working on is trying to find an alternative route that would be safer, better for our residents, and still accomplish the goal. The comments about it being a tight area off of the number 11 tee box, I think is valid, and every board member would agree. The updated map, we originally put out with it running right along the golf course. There was an update where it went along the street. Since it has been struck from the agenda, in a way you can ignore both of them. Because right now their board is trying to work on a solution that would work better for everybody involved. So an alternative route. Changing gears, the restaurants, the restaurants, I clearly am biased, but we are providing a great service to our membership. A lot of our members feel it is an amenity. In the 5 years that we've been open, we've gone from zero in revenue to $3.5 million in revenue, and we really are doing very well. Other than Papa Mike's has been there for 16 years. Other than that, all of the other establishments that had leases, basically most of those leases lasted 1 year. They were one and gone, one and gone, one and gone, one and gone, and the inconsistency wasn't there. We've had a lot of consistency with them. Activity cards, we feel that the $30 for everything that you receive with the activity card is very reasonable. We would always like to give you more for your money, but it's a revenue issue. And it's making sure that we can provide our services. We have approximately 17,000 property owners that get activity cards. Some of those are dependent cards that are not charged. So it's a revenue issue. If we reduce revenue in one area, we have to increase revenue somewhere else. So it's not necessarily a zero-sum game. So hopefully I hit everything, and that's it. If I miss anything, corner me after the meeting. We can have a lengthy conversation.
Yeah, I have one comment about the restaurants. In my 4 decades in Bella Vista, I've seen a lot of change and recycling. And the restaurants that we have now are doing incredibly well by any standard. Particularly for an assessment-supported amenities community. People want to come and eat. And I've seen in the past, you had to wear a jacket and tie to come into the country club. And that wasn't sustainable. It cost the POA too much money. The same with all of the restaurants. It was costing the POA money because the membership did not support them. So they went and tried the lease arrangement, and that cost more money. The restaurants that we have now are definitely an improvement to the bottom line, and I think an improvement for the membership as a place to go and take your guests when they come into the village. You can be proud of what we have. So I've noticed the difference, and sometimes these guys don't toot their horn loud enough, but they have done, as Tom said, they went from nothing 5 years ago to they're going to hit $3.5 million this year. That's pretty good. So anyway, hopefully we got your questions and concerns answered. Now we will talk about a couple of trails.
So for those that were here for the trails, this is pretty similar. This presentation is pretty consistent with what was given last week. If you attended last week, you're going to hear a lot of the same things. But this is kind of a recap and a conversation about some proposed trails. Keep in mind that 2 of these trails have been stricken from the agenda, and I'll reference those. The Trailblazers actually put this presentation together for us, so I'm going to be talking about that. So here's an update regarding the trails that were approved in September of 21. Those trails include Snowbird, Bluebird, and the Manchester Tunnel. The first one is Snowbird. This is off of East McNally Road, County 40. This is an adaptive trail, which means it's a wider than normal trail. It's a great location if you want to, my wife and I, Allison and I, will walk with our dogs. We can walk next to each other. Or if you're on an adaptive cycle, you can use this. It's a great location. The bottom right-hand side, you can see some of the recent artwork that was added there. They're going to be adding a water hydrant there for hydration and 2 parking lots. So that's going along pretty well. That's a great flat area. If you're looking for a nice looping trail, it's a great one. This one is Bluebird. This is behind Casey's or the dermatologist office, and it's going to have a half-mile looping trail. You can see that there. There's a pergola with a picnic table underneath it. There's going to be a parking area, a gravel parking area, a nice wide trail that you can walk, and a playground will be installed also in that location. So that one's still under construction, and there's going to be a sculpture walk in 23. The Bella Vista Arts Council is doing that. The next one is on Manchester. This is a crossing that can be challenging with the location and the speed of people coming down the hill in vehicles, and so the Trailblazers are working on adding a tunnel which will be much safer. The next one we're going to talk about is the projects that were approved in July of 22, which are paved trails, the Blowing Springs Phase 2, and the Razorback Greenway Phase 3. So the first one, this is on the far east side. If you look at the center image on the right-hand side, that is where Metfield Park is, and that's where the Greenway begins there. And so this is an extension of the Greenway, or at least an offshoot from the Greenway. It'll go along Commonwealth and then head north on Trafalgar. There's a large amount of rooftops within a quarter mile and a half mile. At this point, they are 10% complete with design. If you've ever gone along the trail between Metfield and Blowing Springs, that is a highly used concrete trail. It's 10 foot wide. You see walkers, bikers, roller skaters, mountain bikers. You see everybody. It's used. Not today, it's too cold, but most of the time it is a highly used trail, and so this is actually extending it further north. The image on the right-hand side is it as it goes further north along Trafalgar. The next one is Birksdale South, and you'll see that this one is going to skirt along the water. This image, actually, there's one error. It's the trail is supposed to end at the parking lot, not where it goes to. This is going to be a 12-foot wide trail. In my opinion, it's probably going to be the most used trail in Bella Vista when it's complete. It's going to go right behind Allen's. We have a blue heron rookery in that corner, so we're going to try and skirt around that also. They are 30% complete on the design work of this trail. The next is the soft surface trails currently under consideration. The first one is at Lake Ann. And if you've been up to Lake Ann, you know that they really have that spectacular bridge, which is on the north side. On the south side, where the red lines are, those are existing trails. Unfortunately, those existing trails are always in the shade and tend to get very muddy, mucky. And what they're trying to do is move the trail higher up on the bluff so that we can get out of that muckiness. Also, the current trail is very challenging, so you have and that trail is inconsistent with the other trails in the area. They're intermediate, and then you get into that section, it becomes very hard, and so the new trail they're proposing, it would be consistent with that. These trails, and I should have mentioned as we go along, all these trails that we're talking about, the ones that have been approved and are being worked on, and these proposed trails, these are all funded by the Trailblazers, so they are not coming out of the POA's pocket. So it's a really nice thing. So this is the first one, Lake Ann. This is one of the trails that is currently being considered, but has been struck from the agenda. The board had some concerns about it in particular. So if you look at the image on the bottom right, you can see where the Kingsdale Clubhouse is, and the path crosses a fairly busy intersection of golfers, and so there's some concern on behalf, the board has some concerns about that. What they're trying to do with this trail is the trail comes along towards the clubhouse, and then to actually get from the right portion of the red trails to the left portion of the red trails, you actually have to go all the way up to Chelsea. So it's about a 1.7 mile loop all the way around, and the nature of this trail is it's a quarter-mile gap, and they're trying to fill that gap to make it easier. One of the things the Trailblazers have been trying to do is add more short looping trails to make it easier. What they found is some people really love going on a bike ride or a hike that's 10 miles long, but for everybody else in the world, they want shorter ones that are 1 and 2 and 5 miles long, and so that's what they're trying to do. So this one is on hold. The next one, this is also on hold. This is Kingswood to the north section. This one does show where it goes along the road, but there still is some concern amongst the board members, which is why this one has been struck from the agenda. But what they're trying to do is complete this loop and try and find a reasonable way to do that. You also have this outstanding bridge that you can see from the highway during the winter, and they're trying to connect with that. So that one's not going to be considered tonight. The next one is on the east side of the highway, and we're looking at everything in yellow. Everything in red is existing, and this would go behind the museum, behind Shredder's Pub, and create another nice loop and get you to Blowing Springs. It would go along the highway in certain areas, and it would be a 2-mile stretch. And that was it.
Okay, before we get into that, I have to apologize and back up. We have 2 emails that came in to be read, and I forgot to have Jessica read those. So before we consider this and talk about it, we want to hear those emails.
Dear board members, I am unable to attend in person your upcoming meeting, and so I hope that this email will speak from me regarding the proposed trails at Kingswood Golf Course. I love the trails, hike them whenever I can, so this is not coming from a trail hater, but trails through or close around a golf course just are not a great idea. I find the trails that already are by Kingswood to be an annoyance when I golf. Putting on Kingswood number 2 green isn't enjoyable when people are on Sugar Bridge Trail or Danger Will Robinson Trail, shouting to one another, laughing loudly, and on one occasion, when my foursome was putting, hooting at us golfers. I've been a part of a hike group on part of the trail that passes the number 14 green and the number 6 green, and I've explained to the group about golf etiquette and keeping quiet when golfers are on the green. Even immediately after I explain it to them, they are incapable of staying quiet. They just seem to be unable to refrain from themselves from yakking, making their presence not compatible with the golfers trying to putt. I really don't want to see more trails going in around Kingswood, one of our most popular golf courses, or crisscrossing other golf courses. I want our golf courses to offer an outstanding golf experience, one that will encourage even more people to play and play more often. Please, the proposed trails under consideration need to be relocated to a more appropriate location. Thank you for the opportunity to share my experiences with you and to express my opinion. Rhonda Dietz, 3 Robin Lane.
Okay, thank you. You had another one?
Mike Burrow, 72 Mackenzie Drive. I want to voice my wholehearted support for the new trail segments that were being discussed at today's board meeting. These new segments make good sense, as I have personally thought most of these missing pieces while riding our world-class trail system. Trails are what brought me to Bella Vista, not golf, boating, or fishing. But I am, however, in full support of the over $2 million that the POA subsidizes golf, while the trails get $40,000 a year. Being on a board, managing a budget of over $25 million is a daunting job, especially for volunteers. I watch all the board meetings and many of the JAC meetings as well. I find that your work, especially David Brandenburg's management of board meetings, to be exceptional. As a former president of a 500-plus member HOA, I know this is often a difficult and thankless endeavor. I commend and thank you for your thoughtful devotion to our community. And Tom Judson, we are lucky to have you. Keep up the good work. Thanks, Mike Barrow.
Thank you. Okay, now I'm looking for a motion on the Lake Ann Lookout Bypass Trail. Somebody want to make the motion to approve that trail? Jen?
I make a motion approving the Lake Ann Lookout Bypass Trail. I'm sorry, I didn't have the mic on. I make a motion approving the Lake Ann Lookout Bypass Trail.
Thank you. Is there a second for that? Jackie's a second. Okay, open for discussion. Anybody?
I would like to have a little clarification about this trail and the access to the dam.
Okay, what questions do you
The
have?
question is this going to connect to the dam, and if not, where is it going to connect to?
The proposed trail would connect to the top of the dam. Based upon some comments that we received, I contacted the Trailblazers to see if where the red line and the yellow line narrow, to see if we could connect those two. And they said that we would not be able to. It's a 35-foot drop off in that section, and they can't touch the dam face. They can't get anywhere, that's a federally regulated, all our dams are federally regulated, so we can't go on there. So we did explore an alternative, but Doug, you did a little research.
Yeah, there was a comment about not having access to the dams, and that was in the boating and water sports regulation that is published on the website. And the intent for that regulation is to to stop people from getting in the lake or parking on the dam and going fishing without having the proper permit. So I think the spirit of the regulation is to stop that type of behavior, not crossing the dam by bikers.
I have a comment about that. It was pointed out that the parking for this particular area, probably no biker is going to want to park on top of the dam because you only have access to go this way or that way. There's a parking area at the base of the dam that's provided, which has repair area for bikes, and you have access. It's going to be. It's still under consideration or construction. But you also have access to 3 different directions to go from down below. So it's less likely that anybody would park on the dam because it's a much better place and you don't have to drive up on the dam. So anyway, that's my comment about it. Jerry, speaker.
There's boats, there's a boat place that they dock boats up there, which means people are bringing their cars in and stuff like that to get in their boats. And there's also a fishing section up there. So I don't know if it's a little pier or what it is, but that means people will be up there possibly with their cars because they're not going to know to park down in the other parking lot. I just don't know where that would fit in with the bikers for that use of that facility. It's a question that we need to really consider.
You have the lake rangers who are patrolling that. You know, they patrol the dams as well to make sure that if people are parked there, that they do have the proper permitting and so forth. So, you know, just like they're looking for non-bikers who would be using that, I think that would fall into the same.
No, that's not what I meant. If they're fishing up there, or they've got their boat and they go out where they're going to park their car if they get in the boat and go out into the lake, that's going to be up there. So there will be a certain amount of cars and stuff up there.
Is there
Am I correct in assuming that?
There's not a boat ramp there. The boat ramp is at the opposite
Right, but
side.
that is a boathouse. That's right there coming off of that.
Correct. There's a fishing dock up there, and people will park up there to go fishing, yes.
And there are a
members
couple
will.
of
Yeah, you can see a car.
Yeah.
And it's a very narrow road,
You can see a
so-
car parked right in this image right there.
How would the trail going across it be designated? Just going to end there and go into it? There's not going to be any trails made up for it, or marking with yellow tape or
They would
tape?
have to. It would have to be on the pavement. We can't add it on the side because it's a regulated structure.
The Trailblazers cannot touch the dirt on the dam.
Well, I understand that, but I mean,
So that means that it wouldn't be a track beside
no, so
the
they'll just
pavement.
go
It
right
would-
down the road.
They go down the road, get to the other side and get to something more interesting.
What would prevent them from riding down the hill? Our dam, what would prevent them from
Common
going
sense, I
down the
hope.
dam? Hey, we had a board member said her husband would drive down that if there wasn't a barrier there. Who was
Well,
against the parking lot
You know,
being
common
there.
sense isn't always very common. So, yeah, people do stupid things.
I have a question. You indicated that there'd be 3 places to ride there. Are you saying that the 2 existing trails are not being done away with?
No, on the other side. The 2 trails that are marked in
Oh, here,
red.
let me switch back.
They're marked in red. Those are the trails that are underperforming in the estimate of the Trailblazers. They're difficult to maintain because they're always wet and muddy. So one of the speakers mentioned maintaining the trails, and it's ours. If they change this one, that's good for us because where they're going to put it will be easier to maintain than what is going to be abandoned.
So my question is, are those 2 red trails going to be removed?
I think they will be closed, is my understanding, they will be
think?
closed.
And if we have licensed that land there, not only have we licensed the trail, but we have also licensed, 10 feet on each side of the trail? Is that going to be removed and the license reverted back to the POA?
the same parcel, so it would.
It's by parcels. You
Yeah,
want to explain
it's
that?
It's the 10 feet either side of the center line of the trail. So, my understanding is they were gonna abandon one and would just go back to nature, so it wouldn't be a trail anymore.
But it's still
I'm not sure on what the
licensed.
other one is.
Yeah, I've seen several places where they, right here by the clubhouse, where they changed their mind within a couple of months on a trail. And they put it in a different place, and then they go back and they level it and put straw and grass seed on it to get it to grow back to nature. So, you know, they don't want people riding on that because they don't consider it to be a good place to ride.
So to answer your question, Sandy, the lower one, the one that would be closest to, of the red lines, the one closest to the townhouse building, that one would likely be abandoned and renaturalized, which is what David is explaining. There's part of that upper red trail, which is a black trail, which is very, very advanced. And I don't know that they've made a decision to abandon that because that gets very little use anyway. But the yellow line is to try and help mitigate what's happening erosion-wise and wetness-wise, as Tom explained earlier, for that lower trail.
Anybody zooming in have a question?
Nope. I was just going to tune.
JB?
Go ahead. Well, I was just going to say in terms of worried about bikers sharing the dam road with fishing folks. I feel like you're going to go past that dam road and be on it for 60 seconds, 90 seconds. Although the dam is nice and provides a nice lookout over the lake, the true beauty of this area lies just to the north on the fantastic bridge that looks over the kind of spillway, Natural Creek rock area. So I feel like that's the real highlight section. I don't see a lot of loitering going on up here or wanting to hang out. And where the trail is coming by is, if anybody's ever been out there, it's the kind of construction yard, storage yard, dump area for a number of industrial businesses over there. It's kind of a no man's land and isn't aesthetic at all. In fact, it's anything but. So I think it's all about just trying to get on to the more scenic areas of the trail. I think this is a general kind of observation about any trail riding. I don't think anybody's looking to hang out and loiter and look in people's windows, be in places that are unaesthetic or industrial. Most of these trail proposals are meant to keep people moving and going on, not for them to hang out and invade any space for anyone. And one of the great things about the proposals that we're actually tabling right now is that we have an opportunity to actually capture some of the attention and people from the trail, which has been a pretty strong issue for a lot of folks, is that we're not paying to be on the trail. So how do we capture the dollars from the trail? And one of our challenges at the POA is to do just that. With Papa Mike's going away and the opportunity for us to start up another restaurant there in that intersection, that's another great zone where we can start to capture that biker energy. So I hope we can remember that, because we've got a number of things that are challenges with the trails. And one of the biggest ones is, how do we capture revenue from them? Because we can't charge people to be on them, but we can find ways that we can funnel folks in, kind of exit through the gift shop mentality.
Okay, thank you, Mike. JB, did you want to speak?
No, I think that was Jan. It was Jan.
Okay, Jan?
My question is that some of the bikers are not members. Is there a problem with a non-member being on our dam?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, the regulation, contemplates people using the lake, accessing the dam to use the lake, and that's not what and as Mike said, that's not what the intent of these bikers would be. But if they were there to go fishing or something like that, then yes, they would need a permit and to be sponsored.
Other comments? Jan?
Just to point out, when we look at this map, this overhead with the yellow line, where we're proposing, where the red lines are is very muddy, it's right next to an industrial area. Where the yellow line is, when I looked at it, it's more on a bank or a rise, so there's a significant elevation change from where the homes are and where those properties are to where the yellow line is. It's going to be built into a bank, so it will be out of the mud, but yet away from the homes because it's down that bank. Am I characterizing that correctly?
And what's interesting about this particular area is, if you look along the way, there's no homes. You know, there's one right there. But yes, you're correct.
Just one more statement. I do think that we're making a mistake allowing it to be up on the dam. I think you're going to create a lot of work for the lake rangers. We may end up with a lake ranger up there all the time, because even though the intent is not to have anybody up there swimming or fishing or hanging out, I just think it's going to happen. You know, and the wear and tear on our dam also. I'm concerned.
I'll just make one more comment. I'm all for taking a black trail and making it easier, because I don't handle the black ones at all. I go somewhere else. I think that's great to have more of that. I also am concerned, I think we're fooling ourselves if you have a trail that goes on a dam. I live on this lake, and there's people who fish off that dock and swim off that dock, that if it's 100 degrees and you're biking, I think that it's a prime opportunity to jump in the lake no matter what the intent is for the trail. But we're also fooling ourselves because that Brittany loop there comes right up touching the dam, where you could easily ride and go to the dam as well. But I have a concern for excessive work on the lake rangers to patrol it, because I think it is an open invitation when you're riding right by it to jump in when it's hot. So.
Okay, other comments?
David, it's kind of clear to me that it's kind of clear to me that we're still discussing this. So maybe we need to table this until the next meeting, until we can discuss it in the next series.
Well, in that, if you feel that, you'd have to make a motion to table and get a second.
Then I'll make a motion that we table this until January to give it a full, realistic chance of being made.
Okay?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion to table?
Sure, I'll chime in here. There's been an existing trail there, and when you could easily pedal up to the dam, it's not like you're not aware that a dam and a lake is there. We haven't had reported issues so far. I think if we had a track record of issues, then it would make sense for us to kind of reconsider this, but we haven't had a track record of issues. We haven't had any complaints about people doing the feared actions that are being presented today. So I don't really find the need to table it. I feel like it's one of the more cut and dry opportunities for us. But that's my opinion. Obviously, I'm not shared by at least 2 board members who don't feel that way. And I want to respect everybody here, but I don't feel like we're really achieving anything with tabling this here. I don't really see the issue with this one. I feel like it's, hey, let's go along the already done little trail pathing for the cars and get onto the main trail. That's my opinion.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Anybody else? Okay, in that case, I'll call the question. All those in favor of tabling this motion until January signify by saying aye or raising your hand. 3, 4, 5. All those opposed? I didn't hear anything from Jan or from JB and Mike.
I'm opposed.
And that's 5. So it is tabled. The next one.
I also oppose.
Okay,
5-4 table.
5-4? Okay, 5-4. The next one is called Kingsdale Connector. That's been removed from the agenda as the North Kingsdale Connector, Kingsdale, Kingswood, whatever, has been removed. The next one is the parallel to Highway 71 for much of the route. Is there a motion to approve this trail?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve this trail.
Jarrett, and a second on that?
I'll second.
I see JB's light is up. JB is the second. Okay, discussions on this one.
I'll chime in real quick on this one. This one makes sense. Not that the other ones don't, but I think we need to relook at some of the locations. So this one makes total sense, and fully support this one.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Other comments? Jan?
I agree, Jason. Well, just one second, because I'm on Zoom. I think these are some of the no-brainer ones. We're running along Highway 71. It's a great opportunity to showcase to all the traffic that's on Highway 71 that there is, in fact, this amenity in this city. It's a great billboard, if nothing else. Plus, it connects to the new Shredders Bar and Grill, plus the Bella Vista Historical Museum. It runs right along the bluff lines, and there's no houses to be impacted there. It seems like a great use of that land.
Okay. Director Hagan?
I was going to reiterate what Mike said. This one doesn't appear to have any issues that would need to be considered, like some of the others that we're going to take a deeper look at. It does make a very nice connection that doesn't exist now. People will be able to get right by the Bella Vista Museum, right by Shredders. I just think that this is one that somebody else said makes sense.
Okay. Candy?
I have a question and then I have a statement also. Are there houses along those trails? And if there are, have those people been talked to about this going in behind their houses?
There are houses in certain areas along that trail.
You know, people keep asking me why we keep approving more and more trails. They seem to feel as if 100 miles should be enough. And like I've said before, some people love the trails and some people do not love the trails. Some people love it when a trail comes behind their house and some people do not. And
some people play tennis and some don't.
I don't know.
We've got so
I'm
many different.
concerned about the fact that this is also going by so many homes, and I guess I lean more on the side of, aren't 100 miles enough? That's my statement.
Well, as I'll address that these are connectors trying to make loops to attract, more people to, if they want a shorter loop, if they want a long one, they can go the whole 40 miles on the back 40, or they can do a mile and a half or 2 miles, whatever they want. This is to take advantage of the beautiful scenery that we do have. And as far as being, behind people's homes, the trails that I've seen have been virtually invisible from a home. And a lot of times they're down the hill, off in the woods. And, and yes, they do talk to, Aaron talks to all the people that he goes by to get their concerns. And I know that there have been trails that have been adjusted simply because there was one person on the whole trail who was against it, didn't like trails. So the whole trail got moved to satisfy that one homeowner. So it does happen. So,
Well, David, to me, this trail is a no-brainer. To me, it makes sense. Most of the houses that come in contact with this are way above this trail. They really will never, ever hear the noise or probably see them.
well, it's hard to hear the noise of a bike over the highway.
Well, that's not true, because I got walking trails by me, and they come in with boom boxes that I could hear, and they're 400, 500 yards away. Doesn't make any sense. They wanted peace and quiet, but they got a boom box.
Doesn't seem to make much sense, does
No.
it? Not for you, not for me, but to them it does. So they're out enjoying it and their music at
They
the
are
same
enjoying
time.
David?
It's in.
I would like to see an expansion of the southern route of that trail to see how close it is to houses, or it gets to the Burksdale Golf Course.
It's on the other side of the freeway.
Which golf course were you concerned with?
I'm not necessarily concerned with the golf course because it looks like it's running on the other side of the maintenance facility. But from where it connects to the existing red trail, bottom right, and, until it gets over to the white area, sandy colored area.
Okay, that area is, you want to pull up the topographical map?
Sure.
I think you'll find that area is a ravine.
Which specifically where we're talking about?
Where it crosses Dalton or Lambeth.
This area here. All right, I'm gonna add contours, but it's gonna really make it hard to read.
Can you? Ooh, back off some.
Yeah, they're in a ravine.
That's the red, that's
Yeah.
south maintenance.
When reading this map, if you've never looked at it before, when you add the topo lines, the closer the lines are, the steeper it is. And so when you see like this section where it's almost all yellow or orange, that means it's a valley. You can zoom in and see, maybe not a valley, it's just very steep in that section. Those are, each yellow line is a 10-foot increment. Each individual line is a 2-foot increment, so you can see this is pretty steep area.
Where is the trail in there?
It's not on this, it's not shown on this, but
Right there. That's the area you just
Right
showed
there.
for being very steep.
yep.
Everybody would recognize that from driving up and down the highway.
It's not the area I'm asking about. It's from that point all the way to the right.
To the right, okay? So, behind.
Right through there.
All this appears well below the homeowner line.
It's a ravine.
It's steep.
Yeah, it definitely is, it's down well below the homes. And so I hope that answers your question. Any others? In that case, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor of approving this trail signify by saying aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Michael? Those opposed? Sandy and Jan Sims. 7-2. The trail is approved. Okay, the next item on the agenda is purchase of land for our growth, a water tower on the west side. Tom, you want to explain that a little bit?
So we're seeing, the community is seeing a large amount of growth on the west side. So let me zoom out, and you can see there's Loch Lomond, and here's the bypass. And we have approached, and so this is that corner right here where you can get on the bypass, and right up here is Highlands. So just to give you an idea, here's that Carroll Electric substation. And what we've proposed, this land right here is owned by Cooper, and we have proposed that we purchase a 2.5 acre lot parcel from them so that we can build a water tower to service the additional homes. This is in our long-range plan. We would probably need to have that tower online about 5 years from now. But there is really limited land in that upper area of our community, and if we don't get something now, we may be out of luck down the road. And if you don't have a water tower, can't build more homes. And so it's I'm going to draw this in. I'm not the best at this, but you can see that it would be approximately right here, about 2.5 acres. That's just guessing, that's about 2.5 acres, and it would be right there. And so you'd have a utility, the electrical utility right next to the water, and it kind of makes sense to have them both right in the same area. So this is a purchase. We received an appraisal on the land, and it came in at $21,800. And in your packet, you can see a page from the appraisal, and this would be funded through the water utility.
Okay, I'd like a motion to approve that purchase.
I like water. I'll make a motion authorizing the purchase of 2.5 acres of land for $21,800 from Cooper Communities to be used for the future development of a water tower.
Thank you, Sandy. I think we all like water, especially when we don't have it. Who makes a second on that? Jerry will second that one. Is there any discussion on this? All those in favor of the proposal signify by saying aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
9-0. Okay.
Next item, we have two on the agenda. Unfortunately, this has been the reoccurring theme all year long of capital projects because of inflation coming in over budget. We have two of them, and the comment that I wrote in here is we have asked for more waivers in the last 6 months than we have in my first 6 years here, and I think everybody can understand that when they go to the pump and when they go to the grocery store and everything else. So the first one is for the tiny cabins. They came in significantly higher at $125,000 compared to a budget of $79,000. And the second one is for a service truck, which came in at $60,000 compared to a budget of $56,000. For the 23 budget, we've tried to do our best to anticipate inflation, but for 22, it really caught us by surprise. These waivers are required by our auditors because it is a check and balance to make sure that the board is aware when a capital project goes over budget.
I have a motion, please.
I'll make a motion granting a waiver for the expenditure of $125,345 for the tiny cabin capital project, which was originally estimated at $79,490.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. Second on that by Director Hagan. Okay, I have a comment on this one. Part of the overage on this one is planning for the future. There was additional capital expense in being ready to expand the tiny cabins in the future so that we don't have to redo the work again. So it makes it look really bad, but it's not that bad. There's planning for the future. The next time we want to expand the tiny cabins, it's gonna be a lot simpler to get it done. So that's part of the astounding number, and it is astounding. So that's my comment.
So was there more than just slab? Did you run some electrical and water and?
We did. We ran the powers there for 2 more cabins, as well as infrastructure for the water.
So that's part of it. Can't tell you exactly how much, but that's part of it. So, other comments?
I have a comment.
Sure.
I would like us to consider some kind of policy where we don't pay for overages until the board has approved it. Approving it in arrears is, like closing the barn door after the cows got out, or the horses, or whatever. So I think in these times where we have this inflation going on, that we need to consider something to protect the POA members.
I think, Jan, that's something that we can ask the Rules and Regulations Committee to take a look at that and see if they can develop something or if they feel the need, and certainly get that started. So that would start in the Rules and Regulations Committee. So your point is well taken. Other comments? I'm going to call for the vote then. All those in favor of granting this waiver, signify by saying aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
That's approved. Thank you. Have a motion for the truck purchase. Don't everybody speak at once.
I'll do it. I make a motion granting a waiver for the expenditure of $60,222 for the purchase of a service truck capital project, which was originally estimated at $46,000.
Thank you, Jason.
Second.
Second by Jerry. Comments on this one? Discussion, questions? Not hearing any, we'll go ahead. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor. Next item is items that have been sent to us by the Rules and Regulations Committee. We have, I believe, 6 policies where there have been small changes, and so each one will be voted on individually. They have to be voted and approved twice before they take effect. This is the first occurrence for any of these. Tom, you want to explain the first one?
Well, I just want, for those viewers at home, just want to remind, it's a lengthy process that the board has to go through when they change policies. It starts at a Rules and Regulations Committee meeting, then it gets forwarded to the work session, then the regular meeting, which is when a vote would take place, and then that happens all over again the very next month. So it actually goes through a total of 6 meetings before it's approved by the board. We're going to go through this. I anticipate this is going to go through. The board's going to go through these fairly quickly because they've already seen it at the rules and regs, and they've already seen it at the work session. All of these changes, I could summarize all the changes to these 6 policies is we're trying to make the language more uniform, easier to understand, more user-friendly. So the first one is policy 1.03.5, which is the Rules and Regulations Committee. And we actually have these up on the screen if you need to. A couple small changes at the beginning about general counsel instead of use the word attorney. But we added this section at the bottom which explains how you change the different governing documents. Because there's always the question about how do you change the declaration, and if you actually go through the declaration, it's actually covered in about 2 or 3 different locations, and it's very subtle. And so this makes it a lot easier to understand. So that's the change to 1.03.5. Do you want to vote on that, or you want me to keep on going?
Sure, let's vote on that one first.
Okay.
First, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the recommended changes to policy 1.03.5, Rules and Regulation Committee. This is the first of 2 required readings.
Thank you. Director Hagan seconds.
I'm ahead of you.
Jackie's getting ahead
I
of us
love
here.
regulations so much, I'm reading.
Are there any other concerns or questions with this one? As Tom says, it will have been before a public meeting 8 times before it gets approved.
Six times. Rules and regs, work, regular. Rules and regs, work, regular. 6.
Seems like 8.
Seems like 8.
Seems like 8.
Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. How about,
Hey, David,
pardon?
it's JB. I need to go, but as you already know, Jan Hagan has my proxy for the rest of this.
Okay, thank you, JB.
Thanks.
Okay, policy 1.03.6.
Which is the Charitable Giving Committee policy. The only change to this is we add a clarifier under Roman numeral 1.5 in accordance with policy 1.01, member access to association information. The meetings of the Charitable Giving Committee will be closed to the membership. They're usually talking about, well, they're always talking about donations to charities, and sometimes they have to really wrestle back and forth as to how much to give to a charity, and that would not be a good environment for a public meeting. So they have to have some level of confidentiality.
Who wants to make the motion on that one?
I
Sandy?
make a motion approving the recommended changes to policy 1.03.6, Charitable Giving Committee. This is the first of 2 required readings.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Jason got in there. Okay, any discussion?
Keep trying, Jake. Just keep trying.
False start.
Okay, in that case, we're gonna call for the vote. All those in favor?
Jan's got 2.
Michael?
I think there it is.
I didn't hear Michael.
Mike, you're on mute.
Still on mute.
Almost got up.
Okay, any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion approved. Next up, policy 1.04, joint advisory.
On this one, we made several changes, but nothing of any great substance, just to try and clarify what.
Jackie's gonna make the motion on this one.
Okay. Just to clarify and simplify the language and that's it.
Jackie, will you make a motion?
We're just trying to make this more interesting. I make a motion approving the recommended changes to policy 1.04, joint advisory committees. This is the first of 2 required readings.
Thank you. Second? Sandy. Okay, is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Michael. Approved, 9-0. I should mention that, as you probably already heard, that Director Hagan has J.B. Portillo's proxy for the rest of the meeting. She got called away. Next up is 1.05, special or ad hoc committees and task forces.
Not much of a change, and we've talked about this at previous meetings. Out of fear of being hit by Jackie, I figure I'll stop talking now.
Who wants to make that motion? Jackie?
I'd love to make the motion. I'll make a motion approving the recommended changes to policy 1.05, special or ad hoc committees and task forces. This is the first of 2 required readings.
Thank you. Second on that?
I'll second.
Jerry seconds that. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Michael. Next up, we're getting closer to the end. 1.06, nomination by petition.
Very few changes here, just adding some more clarifying information. No changes of substance, other than at the very bottom, the candidates will be revealed to the community in February instead of January.
That's a change. Okay, who will make that motion?
I have a question on that. On number 8, where we changed the date to February, should we say regular board meeting?
No, it doesn't say that. We never indicate regular board meetings, because when they're talking about board meetings, they're specifically always talking about their regular meetings unless otherwise stated.
Yeah, other governing documents talk about a board meeting, and they're talking about the one we're in right now,
Yes.
one per month. So, is that correct?
Yes.
Attorney says that's correct. Thank you. Okay, now did we get that motion?
No, we need a motion. I make a motion approving the recommended changes to policy 1.06, nomination by petition. This is the first of 2 required readings.
Thank you. Jackie, do you want to second this one? Jackie will second this one. Is there any discussion on this one? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The last one, 1.07. A motion about, or excuse me, board meetings is the policy.
And this is the most current version. We had an issue at the last meeting where we had grabbed a previous version and then made changes. So this is the most current version. Once again, nothing of any huge substance in here. And just a reminder, all of these policy changes are available on our website.
Yeah, the change that Tom mentioned was something that Sandy caught, and she was absolutely correct. We'd grabbed the wrong one and put it up, so that's been taken care of. So now we can have a motion. Who would like to? Sandy, would you make that motion?
I make a motion approving the recommended changes to policy 1.07, board meetings. This is the first of 2 required readings.
Thank you.
I'll second.
And Jerry seconds that one. Any further discussion? In that case, we'll take the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
That's it, 9-0. That brings us to the end of our published agenda, and it's time for the scintillating announcements. The Recreation JAC meeting for January is on Monday, January 9th at 4 p.m. The Lakes JAC meeting is Wednesday, the 11th of January at 2 p.m., to be followed by the Golf JAC meeting on Wednesday, January 11th at 4 p.m. here in the boardroom. The Rules and Regulations meeting is Thursday, January 12th, 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. That is an open meeting. The Board of Directors meeting with the General Manager is Thursday at the January 12th at 2:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. That is a closed meeting. The work session, Thursday, January 19th at 9 a.m. here in the boardroom, and the regular, or the board meeting, Thursday, January 26th. We're back to later in the month, so it'll seem like it takes forever before we get there. January 26th at 6 p.m. here in the boardroom. There is a board candidate informational meeting on Tuesday, January 31st at 4 p.m. in the boardroom here at the Country Club. We had one Tuesday afternoon, had some potential candidates in to ask questions and learn what's involved. And if anybody out there is thinking about running for the board, see Jessica, Corporate Secretary. She can give you the information that will help explain that. And you can attend that January 31st meeting to get further clarification. And the petitions have to be in by February 17th at 4 p.m. And don't be late, because the election committee runs the election and they don't take late petitions. So,
David, I know that earlier is better, but is there a deadline as to when they can get their packet? Do they have to get the packet by a certain date, or just in enough time to get it completed by?
As long as the packet is turned in by February 17th at 4 o'clock, they could pick it up the same day and get it done. It's a little bit tight, but they could do that.
yeah, you don't want to test them on that 4 o'clock. They don't budge. They're very firm on that. So, that being said, we've reached the end of our agenda and made some progress forward. So, thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned. Please turn off your